everybody to the Rye Town Park Commission meeting of Wednesday, March 20th, 2019. We're located at the wonderful Portchester Senior Center in Portchester. Please rise and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of Allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We have a roll call, please.
Commissioner Falenka,
Here.
Commissioner Salonicho,
Present.
Commissioner Rosenberg,
Here.
Commissioner Kuhn,
Here.
Commissioner Hurd,
Here.
President Zuckerman.
Here. The first item will be adoption of minutes, but Commissioner Salonicho has to leave early, so we're going to take all of the resolutions first before the presentations. So please follow me as we do the agenda. We're actually, aside from the first resolution, we're going to kind of work up from the bottom of the agenda. Adoption of minutes of February 12th. If we have, are there any objections, additions, etc.? If not, may I have a motion and a second?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We'll skip down to the end of the agenda. Well, no, let's do number one. Resolution to authorize the hiring of Russ Gold as Park Director. That's item number one. And as everybody's aware, we started an extensive procedure to locate a new park director. And lo and behold, we found one right in our own backyard, Russ Gold, who's a resident of the city of Rye. I think we've had, Debbie, correct me if I'm wrong, we had over 60 applications initially.
Correct.
That got narrowed down and winnowed down. We had screened them. They were reduced to 3 finalists, and Russ has been chosen by the full commission as our park director. And we also have a second position, which I will announce afterwards. One of our other finalists will be chosen has been chosen as our director of facilities. So may I have a motion and a second to authorize the hiring of Russ Gold as park director?
So moved. Second.
Please call the roll.
Commissioner Falenka,
Yes.
Commissioner Salonicho,
Before I say yes, I just want to compliment the staff and the committee that was formed on this very important matter. I was pleased to be on that committee and interviewed all the candidates, and I'm happy for you, Russ, and I wish you all the best. Thank you. Yes.
Commissioner Rosenberg,
Yes.
Commissioner Kuhn,
Yes.
Commissioner Hurd,
Yes.
President Zuckerman.
Yes.
May I just say one word?
Of course.
But only one. No, I just wanted to say thank you, and I appreciate the vote of confidence that you've bestowed upon me here, and I to live up to the task. And I also want to thank the Commission in general for the aggressive moves they've been making proactively in these aggressive hires, and also in the hopes that we will really take major steps towards improving the overall look and feel and practices in the park. So, to your credit, and I just wanted to say thank you very much.
Thank you, Russ.
Good luck. Good luck.
And at this time, I'd like to introduce Victor Federico. Vic, want to stand up, please? Victor will be our new director of facilities, grounds and facilities, and has an extensive background in managing facilities and taking care of facilities. And I think one of the most important tasks of the commission is to make sure that all of the grounds, the beach, the buildings are well taken care of, and that will be Victor's primary responsibility. And he'll work closely with Russ and with our other assistant director, Bill Lawyer. Thank you. Let's skip down to the resolution to award a contract to L&M Contracting to replace the bathhouse. Actually, this is the amended resolution. When, at our last meeting, we awarded the contract to L&M, and previously we had gone out and during the bid process had the property tested for asbestos. And after the contract was awarded, we found out that there was a substantial amount of asbestos, and so the contract is hereby being amended by resolution to include the cost of the asbestos removal of, I believe it's $24,500. So may I have a motion and a second to approve the amended resolution?
I make the motion to approve the amended resolution.
Second, please.
Second.
Is there any discussion or further discussion on that matter? If not, we will call the roll. Then, please.
Commissioner Falanga.
Yes.
Commissioner Salvatierra.
Yes?
Commissioner Rosenberg.
Yes.
Commissioner Coe.
Yes.
Commissioner Hurd.
Yes.
President Zuckerman.
Yes. Item 6.8, a resolution to engage Lisa Easton and Helen Thurston to prepare grant applications. This is an item that was removed from the agenda at the last meeting. It was on the agenda, and specifically, the idea is to apply for the CFA and possible CDBG grants. If you haven't already looked at the resolution, please do. And if there's any objection or problem.
I just have a question about
Sure.
it. So it's, Lisa, I guess what I'm struggling with is we're hiring Helen to look for grants, and then in conjunction with that, we're also authorizing Lisa to do some architectural work in connection with grants that Helen finds. And I guess because we're doing this on an hourly
Yes, they charge hourly.
yes.
They each have a different fee.
They do. I mean, I guess what I'm curious about is, I would rather have Helen come to us and say, these are the grants I found, what do you want to proceed with before?
She will. Is it not the
Emily, I heard what was said at the last meeting acutely, and this is now a restructured program. We're specifically engaging them to prepare for the CFA, which is coming up.
Okay.
In addition to a possibility of a fourth CDBG application, which may come available. The reason why we need both of them is because we are submitting grants for architectural work, and that requires plans, that requires specs, and specifically with regard to the historic preservation grants, it requires the cultivation of supporters for our grant, and Lisa is an integral part of that process.
I'm just going to voice my concern, again, just for the record, but it is that my understanding is that Lisa takes a very conservative historical preservation perspective on things, and the building is literally crumbling, so are the walls, and so is
Which building are you referring to?
the tower house, the tower building.
We're not doing anything with the tower
Okay, this is the
building.
bathhouse. Okay,
Yeah,
this
this
is the
basically,
exterior of the bathhouse.
Well, this is not specific.
Well, it says, okay, it could help fund the historic restoration of the exterior of the bathhouse.
Yes.
basically, the thrust that we're doing right now is twofold. One is the exterior of the bathhouse, which we've already applied for one time. And the other is the interior of the bathhouse, for which we got the grant, but we're going to reapply because most of the money, as we discussed last time, will be directed towards the ramps.
Right.
So we're going to, that's the focus of what we're doing. And
Okay.
anything else, they're going to have to come before the commission again to apply for any other grants.
Okay.
This is not specific with respect to grants. Did you mention specific grants that this is aimed at?
Yes, they're mentioned.
Are they?
Yeah.
Exhibit A. You have the CFA for the exterior of the bathhouse, the CFA for the interior, the CDBG for accessibility, CDBG for beach accessibility, and other grants as individually specified.
Sorry, what are you looking at?
I'm sorry, it's part of the attachment.
Exhibit A.
After the reso, there's the service agreement, then subject, after that, there's the Exhibit A. It's
Oh,
hard
I
to find, but it's there.
see. Okay,
And then it says other grants as individually specified and to provide additional fundraising services as per the attached proposal SOW. I don't know what SOW means.
Statement of work.
Can we just make this for the grants that we want to authorize it for now?
Yes, ma'am.
Certainly.
Yeah. I agree with that, Mr. Mayor.
Just to be clear, I heard what you said, what all was said at the last meeting, and this is not a license to go on a fishing expedition. This is very directed work, but certainly if you want to, of course, it's your prerogative to redraft the resume. Or, to the point is, we'll put it in the contract.
Well, why don't we just put in the contract that we are contracting for services with respect to specific grants and list the specific grants, and that's it.
Mhm.
And if there's more to do, we can come back to it.
Sure.
Thanks.
Okay, no problem. As amended, are we ready to vote?
Sure.
Okay, please call the roll.
Commissioner Falenka?
Yes, I move on the resolution as amended.
Thank you. Commissioner Salanitro?
Yes.
Commissioner Rosenberg?
Yes.
Commissioner Cohn?
Yes.
Commissioner Hurd?
yes.
President Zuckerman?
Yes. The consent of commission to act as lead agency for the ADA beach access ramps, and we have with that a notice of intent cover letter, which is actually sent to the commission, the notice of intent, the notice of intent response form, and the full environmental assessment form, part 1. This is basically the same process that we did for the seawall. This is what Beth Evans is doing. And this is the initial paperwork to get us going to get the DEC permits. And also, it's necessary to get the final contract with state parks. And in addition, before we get the contract with state parks, we not only have to have the EAF Part 1, but Beth is working pursuant to our contract on the EAF Part 2, which hopefully will be presented to the commission at next month's meeting.
Gary, just one recommendation. It's very difficult, going through this and trying to find out, all the information. Can we come up with a system where you have the resolution, have that first and back up behind it? Because we're shuffling through a lot of papers here, Benny and I. We're trying to figure out where it is. I think it might be much easier to follow when we get these booklets. So it's just a recommendation to help us get to where we got to go. I'm a paper person right now. I'll get there. But anyway, until I get it.
I must say, I didn't even realize that the attachments were not attached to the resolutions. Didn't even know that. So,
Well, it'd be easier for us to follow and
Yep.
pick up on it quicker than we're doing right now going through it. Appreciate it, thanks. Okay, I'm sorry. Gary, you ready to call for motion? Where are we?
I'm about to call for motions.
There's no resolution here.
Yeah.
There's no,
it's
it's a consent, we don't need a resolution. We just need the consent of the commission to act as lead agency. So,
Voice vote?
vote by voice vote.
Sure.
All in favor?
Yes.
Okay.
So you don't need a motion. Could you go back to the last resolution, please? Because I don't think anybody made a motion for the grant writing resolution.
Oh, I think Mayor Fellaini
I did.
it.
I made a
Second.
You made the motion, and you made the second?
Yeah.
Next item we'll take up is the seasonal park fees. This has to be voted on tonight so that we can get this out to the public. I hope everybody has had a chance to review them. It's quite extensive. Debbie, do you want to go over the high points of the possible changes?
Yeah.
And Russ, you had, which?
Yeah.
Which one? You had a voice in,
A hand in this? Yes.
a hand in this, yes. A voice and a hand.
All right, so part of the big theme for this evening's program and what we're going, the new operating model that we're going into is we're installing parking technology. That includes pay stations, that includes a mobile app, the ability for people who come just for the day to either pay by phone or pay at the pay stations. It enabled us to accomplish a number of things. One is to simplify the parking structure, which has been very complicated and changed multiple times, had lots of different kinds of pay structures. We have tried to walk the balance between simplifying and keeping the fee schedule familiar enough that the people who love the park will know what they're looking at. On the whole, what we've done is there's a modest season permit increase for residents. For seniors and singles, this is the first increase since 2010. And for families and parking-only permit holders, it's the first increase since 2013. What we're also doing is, for most of those categories, every time they drove into the parking lot and parked, they paid a couple of bucks. It was probably about $4. We've removed that irritating payment, and this is a one-time blanket. Once they buy their permit, that's it. They don't pay another dollar. And we took a guess at, say they came 10 times. Essentially, that's what we've done. We've rolled that into the one-time fee. There'll be substantial incentives for residents to buy season permits. The non-residents will see a usage fee across the board. Our parking consultant, who I think is here, did an environmental scan, if you recall, that was presented as part of the Parking Solutions Committee report, which has given us some comfort that we're still well within range of our neighboring facilities. There will be if residents choose not to become season permit holders or cannot because they can't afford to, they can still pay by the day and they can still get access to special discounted rates. The way they would do that is by using a parking app that they would download and basically set up in advance, submit proof of their residence, have it confirmed by the office. And once they've done that, every time they come to the park, they'll use their app, they'll say, okay, I'm here, and the app will just charge them the appropriate rate. So that's the way residents will get the special resident rates. Otherwise, there's a new daily rates. There is also the ability for people to buy a 4-hour parking block or a flat rate. There's also the ability, if they're on the beach and they're having a wonderful time and they want to extend their parking, they can do that from their phones. Other than that, there is the first substantial increase in facility rentals for non-residents that we've had in many, many, many years.
If I could just qualify that, it's the first time ever that we've had 2 tiers for pavilion rentals. It was the same for everybody, resident or non-resident. So we came up with the thought that residents who rent the pavilions will see no increase over past years. Non-residents will see an increase. So we have a differentiation between residents and non-residents on the rental fees.
Do we have any knowledge as to what percentage of the rentals are by residents and non-residents? Is it 50/50 or is it?
I don't have the numbers, but I can tell you anecdotally, the vast majority are residents.
And again, there's no increase for residents.
Okay.
The one last thing that I would point out is as the climate has shifted, it's become clear that September is a very popular beach month. And as such, we're now breaking out pre-season and post-season. So there's slightly increased rates. And it's probably pretty much the same actually. It's a slight increase for post-season. And also for residents, there is, it's free after 6 o'clock in the postseason.
That's
The postseason beachgoer calling.
the reception desk.
Okay.
Anything you want to add, Russ?
No, just about that one of those last caveats, that we thought we would change weekends, what defines a weekend, from Saturday and Sunday to Friday, Saturday and Sunday.
And we checked with our senior staff from previous years. They think that makes all kinds of sense because Fridays really look, in terms of the velocity of business and people on Fridays, it looks just like a weekend.
And it also covers us for those heavy Friday night fireworks nights. And Debbie, are we going with the evening hours as from 6 to close?
Well, I didn't make that change here, so
Right, that's something that we'd like to put forward also. Instead of 7 to close, 6 to close, because since we're doing parking in 4-hour blocks, it seems to me it's because we technically close at 10, and it just gives, I guess, it gives our residents a better opportunity to come after a long, hard day of work, and they get off work typically between 5 and 6, and they shouldn't have to wait to get onto the beach, until 7. And it also, it should, we still have to figure out how to accommodate our evening programs like volleyball and open water swim, how we're going to accommodate them as far as reduced parking rates and lawn chair theater and all that kind of stuff.
those kinds of programs, we've been using the same rate structure for years. We would probably plan to continue that.
We could continue that discussion.
Yeah.
The fact that we're going to vote on it tonight
Yeah.
doesn't mean we can't change it going forward if we need a change. But
Good.
the one thing that really has to be locked in is our season permit fees. That has to be locked in. If we're going to change an hour, daily parking one way from 6 to 7 or from 8 o'clock in the morning, from 9 o'clock to back to 8 o'clock. We can always do that on the fly.
Okay, so then let's all focus on the upper third of the spreadsheet, and we can go line by line, and you see that resident seniors are going to have a combined, beach and parking and beach access for $30, which is $10 more than it was last year, which is a crazy number, So it's
That's
not,
a season pass.
that's a season pass for seniors, inclusive, parking and beach. Last year it was $20, which is like, why bother, but now it's $30. Then resident single, we're going to...
We seniors appreciate that.
Yeah, I know, but we kind of set the bar a little, I mean, I qualified last year, you know? Maybe we should, anyway. The resident single is going to be $150, resident family is $225, and there's no more of that platinum family thing, and if you wanted it, as a resident, if you want just a parking, you don't want beach access, it's $125. Very, very modest increases over last year.
Why is the annual parking going down from 150 to 125? Only.
Because if you, because that's how Debbie hit our calculation column. And so can you put that into words as to why it's 125? Because
Yeah,
it was
because-
125 plus 50, and then we gave a discount. You know.
Well, the resident single who gets parking and beach is at 150, and we thought that somebody who was only coming to park was getting less value, so we popped it down from 150 to 125.
How many do we sell of those? Do you have any idea?
45,
So it's a low number?
yeah.
And really, you know, if you get for $25, you get the beach. So why wouldn't you? But some people, you know, just want to go to the park. So
I think, this is a new system we're going into with the parking. We're going to see how it works for the first year, and we can always make modifications at a later date for next year, because now for the first time, we should have a complete listing of who's using the park, when they're using the park, whether they're using the beach and the parking or not, and we'll be able to look at it and make determinations.
yeah, hopefully we'll develop some real robust statistics that will
We'll be able to make
guide
more-
us in the future.
More educated
Yeah.
provisions even next year.
And going on, I'll give you 1 second, Phil, but going up next for non-residents, you can see that for non-resident seniors, they were paying $60 and then $5 every time they went on the beach. This is just, there's no more of that. It's just going to be $125 for a senior, non-resident senior. And for non-resident singles, it was $250 plus $5 every time you came. It's just going to be $350. And then non-resident families, it was $350 plus $5 every time you come. It's going to be $450.
Any comments from the commissioners?
We have some.
Who wants to talk? Mr. Warner?
Hello, Philip Warner from Beach Avenue in Rhinebeck. We've been beach users for many years and received a lifetime pass. You know, it's a card that it's, I forget whether we got it at 62 or 65, but, you know, it's so old that our pictures are worn off of it, you know. But they never mention that when you have the fee structure. Is that still grandfathered, or is it going away?
I don't know, we've never heard of it.
Did you make that from your...
No, there's a whole,
I've
heard of it.
I've heard of it. There's a whole class
I got it in
of
my
senior pass
pocket.
holders who were grandfathered in. They were given a lifetime season pass.
Nice.
They were.
No, I haven't heard of that.
Okay, and what would happen when you get there, every once in a there's a barcode on the back, so there must be in your computer somewhere, that, you know, the young people would scan it. But most of the time, they would just say, good to go, and they'd wave us in, you know, so there wasn't, you know, you probably weren't counting us for one thing, but you know, it's in my self-interest that you keep doing it. I'm wondering where it stands.
Well, I don't think that we're going to issue any more because we're establishing a a senior rate, which we've had for many years. So I don't know I don't know the history, and I don't know that anybody on the commission knows the history.
But if
how
we've
you get a
got,
lifetime pass.
I don't know that the question is more lifetime passes, just the question is, are we going to continue to recognize old lifetime passes, which I'd suggest we do.
I agree. I don't think that we should cut the contract, but I think you just alluded to the fact, are they going to issue more? I don't think we're going to issue more, but I think we certainly will honor the ones that are in existence if people have them. I don't know that we know who has them, other than yourself.
I was just speaking to Rita, and she says that, you know, we can capture their information somehow. They must be on file somewhere, and we can upload it into the system so that when you come to the beach, you will have access.
Yeah, that was going to be my other
Yeah.
question tonight, why I came, is with all this new apps business,
Yeah.
how are you going to know, to recognize these cards?
Well, that's, you know, the
We
magic of
actually have to issue a
computers.
new card with your card and picture on it.
Or we'll implant a chip.
That's right. When you buy your permit, you get the chip.
We also paid for it too. The first time we came, I think we paid.
Yeah, right, it was a higher than a regular fee. It was only like $50 or something, so there's no
So
way.
basically, it was another tier, it was like $50 for a lifetime pass as opposed to $20, or maybe at that time, $10.
It's going to be
for a season
interesting.
pass.
It's interesting to see how many of these passes surface. Be very
I would
curious
be
to
very
see.
curious.
Yeah, so it's, you know, it's Phil and his wife, and Vicky has one, and you know, and like, well, there you go. How come you never mentioned it before?
You have a lifetime?
I remember I was told that when I got it. It cost
Do you know where it is?
$20. No.
Too bad, Prince.
I guess I got to pay the 30 now.
Introduce yourself, young lady.
Jamie Jensen, Forest Avenue in Rye. Two questions. First, Ms. Reisner, I'm hoping you're going to elaborate on what defines family. I know that it's very important for those of us who have college-age children not to. I'm already taking a $75 hit because I never park to go to the beach, and I will now have to take a $75 hit because it's only a combined now. There's no separate, the way it reads on this chart. Am I right or wrong?
The way it reads on that chart, however, for people who are only going to walk in, we're prepared to take $50 off the top.
Oh, okay. So my other point was I really wanted you to acknowledge the fact that people are paying college tuitions, and when their kids go to college, even though they're over 18, they should probably be included in the family rate.
I don't want to speak out of turn because this is something that's written down on the permit letter, what
Okay.
defines a family,
Uh-huh.
and I want to, give you.
So I'm just letting you know, I think that's something you should consider, and I know it won't affect tonight's decision, but I would love. I also am very much in support of the volleyball, the plays, the concerts, anything that brings families that are outside of Rye, because they're supporting people that live in the resident communities, to have the parking be free at 6 instead of 7. I think it's a really important message it sends to all of those performers that come and do programming when their families can come. So there's really a strong incentive to have it be at 6. So I wanted to just reinforce that.
Thank you, Jane. Further comments? If not, may we have a motion and a second on the fees as set forth herein?
Make a motion?
Second.
Call the roll, please, Deb.
Paul, was that you? Did you get the second? Commissioner Palanca?
Yes, on the fees.
Commissioner Salanitro?
Yes.
Commissioner Rosenberg?
Yes.
Commissioner Cohn?
Yes.
Commissioner Hurd?
Yes.
President Zuckerman?
Yes. There's a request from the Westchester Recreation Department, Special Citizens Program at Rye Town Park, to use the park and I think to waive the fee.
They're not here. This is something, they come every summer.
Right.
And
There's a letter in the agenda dated in February to use Rye Town Beach for the Special Citizens Summer Program. And I think that they're going to send us their certificate of insurance, et cetera. Without objection, I believe the commission will agree to allow that at the beach?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, unanimous?
Yes.
Resolution to establish a paddle sports program at Rhinetown Park for the 2019 to 2021 park season. Debbie, this is similar to what we had last year for the first time. Would you elaborate, please?
That's correct. The outcome is the same. The process is different. So we went through a formal RFP process with a fully posted RFP that was not only emailed out to every kayak paddleboarding entity that was communicated with last year, but we also uploaded it on our website, and it went to Empire Bids as well. And we've received only one proposal, and it was from Hudson River Kayaks, the same organization that came to our park last year. I believe Commissioner Hurd had a lot of firsthand experience with them. And frankly, their offer is the same as it was last year. So they've offered a minimum guarantee of $1,000, and then there's a sliding scale for the more they make, the more we make.
How did they do last year, or part of the summer?
They paid us the minimum, which is $1,000. And if you recall, they came in, they had half the summer.
I have a motion and a second.
Make the motion. Second.
Please call the roll, Deb.
Commissioner Felenka.
Yes.
Commissioner Selvich.
Yes.
Commissioner Rosenberg.
Yes.
Commissioner Cohen.
Yes.
Commissioner Hurd.
Yes.
President Zuckerman.
Yes. And now, I believe that finishes our resolutions. We have a presentation and a discussion regarding the new operating model for parking, beach mobile payments and permits. The highlight of the meeting. Who's going to present on that? Rita? Russ?
Russ is going to make the presentation, and Rita and I are going to provide backup.
Rita's gonna come hold my hand.
I'm going to try to get
Yeah, because then we could work off your tablet,
Okay.
which would be better. I don't know what's really available here.
So first and foremost on this thing, it just gives me great pleasure to say that you guys are all in on this, and that we're gonna, for the first time ever, there will be no person-to-person cash transactions. We have eliminated the handing of cash from one person to another if all goes according to plan. You can still use cash, but you can only insert it into the pay station. So we finally, for the first time, we will actually be able to total out daily receipts. There'll be a reason for every dollar that's in the till at the end of the day, and it should reduce, the shrinkage or shortage, or whatever you want to call it, by a substantial amount. I don't see how anybody, until we lock this whole thing down, the only way I could see, us losing money is if the beach somebody lets somebody go on the beach just without having shown proof of payment. But that's kind of minimal, and we'll have to keep an eye on that. And then we, of course, overtime parking. We have to figure out a fee schedule for the summons. And Debbie said it's likely to mirror whatever Rye City chooses, because but I understood that the summons isn't going to be answerable in a town of Rye or city of Rye. All right. Anyway, that's all to be determined. But for right now, what we just want to present is how this new system is intending to work. So, Rita, can I just have you, just because this is your diagram, and if you could just explain quickly the arrows, how, so if you have a permit, your point here is that you will,
So, the purpose of this is really to separate the two systems. You have a
Rita,
beach,
introduce yourself for the record.
sorry, Rita Azurliant, Label Consulting. So the purpose of this was to really separate the two out from the beach and the parking. Right now, it's a little confusing, and also for automation purposes. That's really why I wanted to show you the diagram of where it's coming from. So let's start with the beach sides. For the beach, as a user, if you're going into the beach and you're a permit holder, then you would do it beforehand, and we already have your information in the system. We would process it, and you're all set to go. So when you arrive to the park, you would basically park, go to the kiosk, and show them something either on your phone, or you can print it out. It would be a barcode scanner that would be scanned at the entrance, and they would give you a wristband and you walk in. Your parking is already paid because your information is already in the system, because we already have that uploaded based on your permit, which is done beforehand. Now, if you're visiting, you would basically go into the parking lot, go to one of the kiosks, select a beach option, pay for the beach. It would print out a receipt with a barcode scanner. You would then take that to the beach kiosk entrance, and they would give you a barcode. They would scan that as a valid receipt.
give you a wristband.
Right, they'd give a wristband. The parking side is basically the same. You would go into the parking. If you're a permit holder, your information would already be in the system. You just park and go onto the beach. If you are not a permit holder, you would go into the pay station, and the pay station would give you two options. You would either choose option 1 for beach, option 2 for parking. You select option 2, and you pay for your parking. You would put in your license plate for the parking, and we have an enforcement system that is a camera mounted on to a golf cart, and it would have a laptop. And what that laptop does is it actively speaks to the pay station, and you can also pay by phone for beach and for parking. So it constantly is talking to both systems. So as soon as you pay for your vehicle with the plate reader would have that system available, and you would go onto the beach, and we have vehicles that constantly scan the parking lot for valid license plates. So if you did not pay for parking, we would be able to recognize that. There's a period of time, we're still working with the vendor on that, where you would be able to park, and then some time would go, maybe about 15 minutes to reach one of the pay stations, or use pay by phone. So there's a little bit of leeway given there to give people enough time to pay for that.
Should I bring up the diagram of where the pay stations would be?
Yeah, let me, before we go there, does anybody have any questions? I know it's kind of a basic explanation, but you have a permit, and so if you have a permit, just to reiterate what Rita said, if you have a permit, that information, including your license plate and verifying your residency status, that is in our database.
And it's just one car per one license plate per permit holder?
We can decide how many license plates we want to permit per.
The system is
versus
capable,
permit.
from what I understand, you stop me, correct me if I'm wrong, so I have two cars, obviously two different license plates. They'll both be in the database, but as soon as one of them's in the lot, the other one gets blocked.
Yep.
Because it's tied to my account, so I can't have both of my
You can't have
cars.
both cars,
Yeah.
but it still allows you to bring one or the other,
Yes,
and that's what you want.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. So that's for people that have permits, and as we said, if you don't have a permit, you're just a daily visitor, whether you're a resident or non-resident. If you don't have a permit, you park, you have to go to the pay station and enter your license plate number and choose from your options, whether it's 4-hour parking, all-day parking, beach access, that kind of thing. Okay?
But Russ, if
Yes.
you're a regular goer to the beach, but do not have a permit, you can do that on your phone. You can set it up on your phone, correct?
Yes, when I said that you have to go to the pay station, what I mean is you have to pay. And there's two ways to pay. There's going to be a phone-based app, and there's going to be physical pay stations.
This is
As long as you pay,
everybody-
we don't care
for
how you do it.
anybody watching, either here or watching on TV or streaming, the system is very similar to the system that's in use at Metro North parking stations to go to a spot. but you're not using a spot number, you're using your license plate to enter. That's the system that they use. I know they use that in Stamford, Connecticut as well.
Do we also have, are we going to have to enter a zone? Okay.
And the alternative to using your phone or your tablet is to go to a multimeter, just like they have in the city of Rye, the village of Portchester, or any parking mall in White Plains.
Correct.
Same principle.
That's right. Instead of having a numbered space, it's by your license plate. All right. So if there's no more questions for that part, we can go on to the next phase of this thing. Is that we're going to we were trying to determine the economics. You know, what's best for us and what's best for the park-going public. About how many pay stations to have. We thought maybe we'd get away with just 2, but we didn't think that was, we thought that might just create too much of a backup and too much confusion on heavy days. So we went for 3, and we're leasing them, right? Or it's a pay-as-you-go kind of thing? We're not buying them outright in the first year, are we?
We're leasing them. It's
We're
a
leasing them,
3-year
okay.
lease, and in the 4th year, we buy them for $1.
Yeah, okay, so the payments are spread over 3 years, so we're not just laying out, X amount, $15,000 or whatever it is. And the one pay station is going to be at the south, you can't see it, but it's the South Beach entrance, right at sort of on that little traffic circle at the end of Dearborn. So that will give access to people that have physical limitations, because that's the only flat entrance to get to the beach. You don't have to go to any stairs or steep ramps. Second one is going to be just outside the park office, the park director's office and security office, which is in front of the administration building, adjacent to the water fountain there. And the third one is going to be up on the hilltop opposite the current security office, opposite the bathrooms. There's a light, and we tried to be as strategic as we could be and try to figure out what's going to work best for the patrons. But also we put them in the closest proximity as we could to a power source. So if they're as close to one of our lampposts. All right, so we don't have to draw the power, from too far a distance. We don't have to lay any cable. Okay. Next.
Wait, that's your program?
No. I wish you had. Yeah. I wish you had this, which is sort of how we're changing the flow of traffic so we logically fill the available spaces in the paved lot, and so we only use the grass area adjacent to the pond when we have to. All right, and as you can see, as I'm sure you've seen in other diagrams, there's basically only going to be 3 places to park, and that's the paved lot, the gravel lot, adjacent to the playing park, and adjacent to the pond. There's going to be no more parking up on the hill.
Let me just interject something. The parking study that we commissioned Rita to do was really twofold. One is basically the presentation that Russ is making in terms of using modern technology to access the park and to pay for parking. The other, which is just as important, is to have a better layout so we can get more cars in and use less grass. And hopefully we're succeeding in doing both of those things.
Yeah,
There should be a lot of, let me just say, this process, if it works correctly, should eliminate on our busiest days the long backups that we've had on Forest Avenue. On a July 4th weekend, that's sunny, cars lined up, we couldn't let them in, and people would be waiting at the gate to pay, fiddling with their money or their credit card or something, and not, holding up a whole line. And with this system, there's no gatekeeper. You're going to drive your car in, go to a spot. So the traffic should flow much more easily, and yet our revenue should hopefully increase.
we expected to, and also we've gone to great lengths to alter the configurations of these parking spaces to maximize the investment. There was all sorts of dead space that wasn't being used. There were cutouts that didn't need to be there, and so we closed those off. So we found six more spots there, and again with proper alignment and maximizing the available space, we netted an increase in spots over the past years.
How many?
All right.
I think it was how many? I think we net, and also with the adjustment of the number of handicap spots, because we were way over what our requirement was. I think we netted an additional 35 spots, 30 to 40 spots.
I have a question.
Net increase, yeah.
I'm going by the beach in, peak time, and I see a lot of parking on that grass. And you're telling me that with the alterations you're making to the present parking lot, you're going to be able to fit those cars in the area you described to us
You are,
without parking on the grass?
well, it depends what you're talking about the grass. So
Are you going to use the, I'm a little confused on that statement.
yes, and I
Are you going
let
to
me
be
try
using the grass area for parking?
We are going to use the one grass area that we've been referring to as Lot C, which is adjacent to the pond, between Forest Avenue and the pond. So from the south end of the pond, if you will, to the north end of the pond, adjacent to Forest Avenue. In prior years, when that area filled up, we also parked a number of cars up on the hill, north of the pond. We were proposing to completely eliminate parking beyond there, on that spot.
Who was
So-
proposing that?
The parking subcommittee.
So,
Yeah, the Parking Solutions Committee.
But I would think that that's a decision that this board has to make, given the fact that that's an economic decision.
I think Russ is saying we've got more spaces now.
I understand that, I'm saying we shouldn't use that area unless everything else is absolutely full, because to Fritz's point...
no people will be turned away.
Yeah,
You know what happens?
What is the...
We have
I'm concerned. I know a lot.
We have done the study that we showed that just eliminating parking up on the hill, not using it at all, will not negatively impact the current parking revenue stream. It should have a positive impact.
And that I don't see,
I think-
but
With
let
the
me
change-
ask you this.
with the change in rates
If you get, well, yes, the change in rates hopefully will have a positive impact. But to Fritz's point before, there's a lot of cars that park up on that hill on peak days. Now, I understand that they've been reconfiguring, and we've netted some spaces, and the new system should help improve the flow and whatnot. But if all of the parking in the gravel lot and the paved lot and by the pond is full, are you going to be turning people away?
Yes.
Well, I think that that's a decision that this commission has to make.
I think I was under the impression that the committee
Hold it. Parking in that zone that we're talking about, that we're saying not to park in, was always a last resort.
Yeah.
It was always a last resort. And there have been times, even with parking there, that people have been turned away on busy days.
Correct.
I'll tell you, if I paid that much money for a parking permit and I went down there and I couldn't get access to the beach, I'd be pretty
I
upset.
think that what we really need to do is see how it works. We are guessing. We are guessing on all of this.
I disagree, Gary. This is an economic decision that the parking subcommittee doesn't necessarily have the power to make that type of an overall decision. And I agree, it should absolutely be the last resort, but I'm not in favor of turning cars away if everything else is absolutely full, because...
Well, I understand your point, but I understand your point, and it's valid. What I will say is that this solution is answering the calls of the community. If there's one complaint that we hear time after time, is that this park is being used as a parking lot to the detriment of the environment, to the detriment of the park, to the detriment of the flora and fauna. It is just been, it's been
I
a constant battle,
and I
a rallying
understand
cry.
that, But
And it's time
again,
to,
this is not for the community to decide, this is for the elected officials who sit on this board to decide. Okay, so I think that this board has to make a policy decision.
okay. I can't speak
Should
to
we
that.
vote on that right now?
I'm
then?
not on the board.
Again, just picking up on this, Gary. If I bought a permit to go there, includes parking, and I get there and I get turned away, I will be very upset. How do you manage that with the sale of permits? I mean, if you're going to sell so many permits, and how many parking areas are you saying you have with this new system? Because that's got to kind of balance out. You're going to oversell permits, and then they all show up at the same day? How does this work? I'm confused.
Fritz, you raise an interesting question because I don't know how many parking spots there are relative to having permits.
That all has to be balanced.
I think that
We have about 1,000 permit holders currently from last year.
Listen to this.
And the parking spots that we planned, pardon me, it's so small here.
They'll show up.
We calculated that with A, B, and C, the available transient spaces would be about 438. That removes from, that counts employees who've driven that we don't charge for them and members and staff from the restaurant. So we wouldn't charge them, and that would leave 438 spaces.
How many permits do you sell there?
1,000.
Okay,
You
and
know,
quite honestly, Gary, there's been a policy up until now that that area is used as last resort. And it should be hopefully an absolute last resort, and maybe it won't even get used this year. But right now, the policy is that that grass area gets used. And if people are looking to close that area off and start turning people away, then that's a vote this committee has to take.
then,
I wasn't on the table for discussion.
no, this is coming up now. This will bear further discussion. Right now, we're going over the plan that the Parking Solutions Committee has determined, focusing, number one, on the operation of the meters and the new spaces. And we'll leave that question in abeyance because we're all in agreement on one thing. That should be an area, I guess we'll call it D, should be used certainly as last resort and hopefully not at all. So whether it'll ever be used is a discussion that the commission will have in the future.
Gary, can I make a suggestion?
Sure.
Maybe, I don't know if this is outside the scope of what we've hired her to do, but could she maybe just take a look at an aerial photograph of the hill? And, I mean, we're not talking about unlimited parking, right? We're talking about an additional so many spaces outside of C lot. So maybe you could just give us a sense of how many cars could potentially park there, considering the topography, so that we know, because in my mind, if we're gaining, say, 30 to 40 spots, I would rather, knowing that this improved system will get people to park, they have to wind throughout the entire parking lot, therefore taking up vacated spots, rather than just being directed to the grass, which is what they've been done, which is what has been done in the past. I would like to have some data on which to base my vote, because I would like to vote on that before this parking season opens, as a policy matter of whether or not we're going to use the hill or not.
We could take it up again next month.
Yeah,
And
but
Rita, you can make a determination as to exactly how many spots would be used in that area of last resort.
Just so you know, it's difficult to do because of all the various obstructions that are scattered throughout that hillside, whether it's man-made or natural.
yeah, so
There's a
I
wide
think
range
it's a
of
lot-
things.
Yeah, I know, but I think we need to figure out, and I think the commissioners are interested in knowing if we totally ban parking there, how many parking spots are we really banning? Are we banning 5?
And again, what's our goal here? Is our goal here just to make money, or is our goal here to serve the
Our
public?
goal is a combination of both.
Well,
It's a combination
You know-
of the park has to get revenue. On the other hand, we don't want to do anything that will destroy the turf.
True, and you know, and look, sometimes, you know, in life, you know, you get to a place you want to go, and it's full. It happens.
It does happen.
It does.
And when you park at a train station, I'm sure that there are a lot of permit holders in the city of Raleigh. When they come to get a spot, they can't find one.
Look, if you go to the mall on December 23rd, you know, and there's no spots, there's no spots.
You can't find a spot either.
Gary, if I may, for years I sold, the village clerk's office sold permits for the MTA lot, till the MTA took it over. And there was a certain percentage that we oversold for that lot. And, you know, there were days, you know, vacations and everything, you kept your fingers crossed. Because if they all showed up, and somebody said, well, I bought a permit, and this is what we always worried about. I bought a permit to park at your railroad station, and I come there, and I don't have a spot. And we would hear it like that. So that's my concern with this program.
To Fritz's point, which is, Fritz, to your point, does our parking permit guarantee you a spot?
No.
No.
So, that's what I'm saying.
I think we've got
They're parking, yeah, but they don't have spot parking.
But I think the terms and conditions of the permit.
Russ,
Yes.
I
Yes.
understand your point,
Mhm.
but again, you know, this is a difficult balancing act, right? And I don't think any of us are saying we absolutely want parking there. I think we want the option to park there. And I think to Emily's point, I think that there should be a vote on this. Right now, the policy is that there's parking there as a last resort.
And if there's no option, then we got to revisit how many permits we sell. That's my talk, and that'll hurt the revenue on the park.
So the only thing that's changed from last year to this year is the way we do business and the way our customers do business with us in terms of how they park and how they pay for parking. The overall scope was to digest the betterment of this opportunity to consolidate some of the spaces, make the spaces more user-friendly, that as a gauge, we would then develop an idea of, hey, we don't need to use that much grass area. That was the objective here, was to test the improvements to the overall operations to become more user-friendly, and then to gauge how bad is that grass parking, because there was a lot of haphazardness going on in terms of how the folks would come in. They weren't guided properly, taking up, you know, whatever. So with the management team that we have built in, plus this commitment from the commission to have a solidified approach, a very user-friendly approach, we will know as the season progresses whether or not the grass area can be limited, but we have not made a decision yet.
Understood. And I hope that we'll do a better job of backfilling as the day goes on.
Correct.
So, because once the churn starts to happen, you know, we're only as good as we did.
Do we have any idea, Russ,
Here.
how many times during the course of a year is that fourth area really used? I know it's going to be used potentially on a July 4th sunny weekend, okay? But how many other times during the year? Because I've been in that lot a lot, you know, many times when there's no problem parking, even on a sunny day, and there's no thought of using that. It's never going to happen on a weekday. And the weekends, probably, maybe occasionally, are we talking about using that grass area twice a summer?
I'm reluctant to...
4 times a summer? 8 times a summer?
I'm reluctant to say, but the optics are just...
It only takes a couple of events, Gary.
It doesn't say in the 4th of July. That's what he's talking about.
It does.
12 to 15.
And it only takes
There's
a
going
couple
to
of
be a
events.
I've never
management.
seen it on a Saturday.
There's going to be a management sequence that they have to start that process of utilizing the grass as close to the gravel and to the asphalt area, and then progress forward. It's not going to be haphazard. You have smart people that are going to running the park, managing the folks that are coming and going. The turnover is also important, which we didn't talk about yet, is can you buy a 2-hour, 1-hour permit to park? Right now, it's the whole day parking. We
Well, there's 4 days.
And there's 4
hours.
hours.
There's a 4-hour.
I didn't see that part.
Let's
But anyway,
bring
my
this-
point is, we're in the right direction.
Let's bring this conclusion to an end. Bill, you wanted to say something?
Just throw in one of the
We gotta
very...
get to the microphone, Bill.
Like, yeah, well,
Bill?
Bill,
We'll have to get to the microphone, Bill.
I didn't hear, maybe you mentioned it, but one of the issues that many residents are upset about is that we have parties on the weekends, and the parties are great. We use them sometimes, we'll have 4 or 5 parties going on in one weekend. And then everybody who's coming to those parties expects to be able to park. In fact, we've had big arguments and discussions about this over the years at the park with, should we guarantee a certain number of spots? And that's, I know, is residents who come in and they say, well, what are those spaces that are empty over there for? And I said, well, that's where the party this afternoon is going to park. So I think and we're talking about maybe 50, 100, we're talking about a fair number of cars who come in for those events, and you can't very well turn them away.
this is a discussion that we'll have to have in the future, okay? Rest, you want to wind up? Are you wound up? Are you done?
No, I said I wish I had could show you the map, just how the traffic is going to flow. So
We can do it next week.
yeah, but just so the view from 10,000 feet is that there's no longer going to be somebody at the gate, so the traffic will and none of the traffic is going to go over the little bridge. It's all going to stay to the west of the pond, and there'll be other ways for access and egress, but we're going to try to make it a lot more safe, so there's no more conflicts between pedestrians and cars.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Russ. Excellent. Rita, anything else? Okay, thank you. I think did we finish everything else?
We have a public comment?
No, just the budget.
Just a quick question before we move on, just on the park. My name is Troy and Rafford on Oakwood Avenue in Rye. If I look at the spreadsheet, am I right in calculating, if I'm a family of 4, 2 adults, two kids, and I basically walk across the street to go to the park, it's going to cost $50 on a weekday and $70 on the weekend?
With the car?
Nope, walk across the street.
With the pass or without the pass?
Without a pass. If I
You
just
asked the question or you know the answer?
I just want clarity on this because to me it looks a little bit steep. Like I get that we obviously want to charge an excess for parking, right? That's the object here, is we want to try and protect the park.
You're talking just for beach pass.
If I'm a resident, no beach pass, I just walk across the street, family of 4 to use the beach.
You have the passes, it's great.
First of all, both of your kids, if they're under 12, they're free. Because we don't charge for kids under 12.
Okay. Let's just say that they were 13 or 14. Let's just say if it was not a young family, it was a teenage family. If I literally walk a block across the street to the park, not parking, so helping to protect the park, is it really going to cost $50 on the weekday and $70 on the weekend to walk to the park, walk to the beach?
As a non-permit holder you're talking about?
Yep. Resident, non-permit.
It'll be $15 per person.
It's 20 for the first person, and then 10 for every person off that, right?
Non-permit holder.
What was there? I didn't see on there that there was a without.
Yeah, that's $10 per person.
For
Go to the beach.
For a resident, a family of 4 during the week, it's $10
$10 per person.
It's $4. And then it would be $15 on weekends per person. Like I said, first part.
So it's $40. If I just walk across the street, it's going to cost $40 for the family to go to the beach.
Day at the beach.
Yes, for a day.
They're all getting that season pass.
That's what we want.
I get that. I just think that from a pay scale point of view, from a resident, that it should be more skewed towards a benefit for being a resident, a benefit for walking, versus a non-resident driving, parking, and the impact. Right? Ideally, I know I've said this before here and in other places, that ideally I think I'd like to see, and I just want to put this on record, I'd like to see, the fence around the beach go away entirely. If you can make your way on foot to the beach, you should be able to access the beach. If you drive, absolutely pay. If you're a non-resident, absolutely pay a lot more.
Let me just make one comment on that. The commission has historically and continues to balance the fact that there are residents who live close to the beach and the park, and residents also who do not live close to the beach and the park. People who live on the other side of the city of Rye, people who live in Rybrook, Westchester, and Rye Neck. And, you just saw us wrestle with the parking presentation and the grass. We want to maintain the park. It costs money to maintain the park. It would be very easy to totally eliminate fees for everybody and then just raise everybody's taxes. And then there would be an objection to that. We could make the beach free for all residents, make parking free for all residents, and then the town of Rye and the city of Rye could increase the taxes on their residents to accomplish that. But there is a balance between fee for use and taxation. The capital work that's going in, for example, which has to be paid for, ultimately will be paid by the taxpayers in general of the city of Rye and the town of Rye. So it's a balance we're trying to strike. And sometimes it's difficult, and there are different points of view, and we try to accommodate everybody's point of view. Ultimately, we have to make a decision. Okay, the next item is the budget. It was presented, and we're not going to act on it. There will be some changes, I believe, but it's right now it's an available public document for anybody who wants to see it. We're not going to go any further with that this evening unless the commissioners want to go forward. Okay. And at this point, we have, let's do the management report. It's been submitted.
Gary, the restaurant is waiting also.
All right, we'll get there.
We're in no rush.
The management report, Debbie has submitted. Is there any comment on that? If not, we will go to the restaurant report. Does the restaurant wish to make a report?
Yeah.
Would they like to talk about anything? Now's your time.
Safety in numbers.
Yeah.
Hey guys, Robert Harris from the Barley Beach House.
Chris Race. And Liam O'Keefe. I'll give you guys just a quick update of where we are right now. We're currently under construction. We're doing a second phase of renovation, moving the bar. Right now we're working on the floors. Hopefully the floors will be done next week. We have a lot of good stuff coming this season that we feel much better about this season than we did last season. So we're looking at the positive end of that. Unfortunately, we were shooting to open up for Easter brunch, but just with the timing and the winter and everything, it looks like we're going to open up on Mother's Day. We don't want to push it and try to open fast and be scrambling again this season. So unfortunately, we're not going to make our original deadline, but it will be Mother's Day. We'll be 100% ready for that. We did want to bring up the discussion again about being able to bring it to your attention and discuss about being able to serve on the beach. Last time we brought it up, I know that you guys asked that we kind of draw it out and lay it out for you guys. We spent a lot of time trying to figure out how to draw it and pitch something to you guys, but we keep running into the issue with the water coming all the way up to the windows, like almost to the height of the windows, where it's coming in the store. So we don't think it would be wise of us to do any kind of something outside that we wouldn't be able to bring in or pull out or adjust on a daily basis. So one thing that we were talking about was using the window closest to the exit door downstairs, setting up a little bar area over there where we could just do some light drinks and cocktails and have a sectioned off area, whether it be a roped off area or some kind of trees that we could bring in and out, some picnic tables, and just show you guys that we could maintain it on a regular basis with beachgoers.
I'd just like to add that the structure and the design of this project is one aspect of it. There's still more discussion that we're having with our attorneys in the SLA about how to secure the area and monitor the area effectively. So that will also be part of our plan. We just want to definitely have all our I's dotted and T's crossed before we present that. It's a pretty exhaustive process that we're going through with the attorneys and back and forth with the SLA just to make sure that we come to you once and have the answers that you'll be looking for.
When do you think that would be?
I'm hoping that we will have something in the next 2 weeks. Our attorney's on vacation this week. So, 2 to 3 weeks, I'd say we can have something for you.
I would suggest that you have something fairly comprehensive that we could actually digest. And if you'd like to discuss it at the April meeting, I'd suggest that it get to us 2 weeks before the meeting so that the commissioners can look at it and even raise comments even before you come in so that we can have a productive discussion about it.
That would be great.
All right?
That'll be our goal.
Gary, what is it exactly that you guys are looking for us to give you guys?
A proposal, a business proposal. This is what we want to do, and this is how we're going to do it. And if there are problems, for example, if you need SLA approval, how long is that going to take? Do you already have it? How is it going to look physically? And the fear of this commission, since I've been on it for the last couple of years, and I think since Benny's been on it since Noah was in the army. Not that long ago. Not that long? Oh, okay.
2 floods have happened.
We made the flood reference. Has been that liquor gets on the beach, it is unpoliced, and then we have, shall we say, altercations, which we do not want to have, because it is a family beach, it is not a party beach.
Okay. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff that
We don't want to stop you guys from making money, because under the terms of our agreement, the more you make, the more we make, so we're happy to do that. But it's a family beach, and we're not going to risk that, so.
That's not what we're looking to do at all. We're prepared to have multiple layers to protect, underage people from drinking or excessive drinking. We'd have servers that are tip certified, alcohol training, know how to spot things. We'll present that to you guys. Give you guys some time to digest it.
What are we looking for? That's what we're looking for, am I correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll have that for you guys before the next meeting.
Thank you.
All right, thanks guys.
Thank you.
Any other public comment? If there is none, may I have a motion to adjourn?
So,
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Commission meeting is adjourned.